Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and hello everyone. Thank you for joining our event today. I would like to welcome all of you and also welcome to those who are joining us for the first time. It is absolutely great to have you. My name is Ong Kampine, a member of the Energy Institute, Young Professional Network Malaysia. This event is a collaboration event with Energy Institute Malaysia and our partner at Energy Institute Middle East. Please be aware that the webinar might be extended for another 50 minutes to answer more of your questions. And kindly reminder for all the audience that today's webinar will be recorded. At the end of the presentation, we are going to have a Q&A panel session with all of our speakers. You can post these questions throughout the session in the chat box below, and these will be addressed during the question session. Please state your name, affiliation, and also the name of the speaker you are targeting your question to. With that, a small overview of today's topic with the title of Virtual Reality and Augmented Reality Integration with Energy. Virtual reality is one of the technology with the highest projected potential for growth. The simple idea is to make sure that how virtual reality and augmented reality can be integrated in the future of energy. According to the latest focus from IDC research in 2018, investment in VR and AR will be multiplied 21-fold over the next 4 years, reaching 15.5 billion euros by 2022. Augmented reality AR is a new form of human-machine interaction which overlay computer-generated information on the real-world environment. In today's webinar, our honorable speaker will talk about the supercomputers, virtual reality, and augmented reality software and hardware. I would like to introduce our speaker for today. As for our first speaker, Mr. Nurazam, Mr. Nurazam is the founder and CEO of Twistcode Technology, also known as Twistcode. After studying electrical and electronic engineering in Chiba University, Japan, he went back and founded Twistcode in 2006. Started with parallel computing, Twistcode ventured into artificial intelligence using the same infrastructure of GPU servers. Twistcode made Malaysia into the ranking of world supercomputer in 2019, at the rank of 88th in the world, beating Thor's US Air Force supercomputer. Self-assembled supercomputer Adam by Twistcode, it ventures into cross-vertical in healthcare, oil and gas engineering, finance, and few other niche sectors. While for the second speakers, Mr. Nicholas. Mr. Nicholas is a business manager at HTC Middle East and Africa. He had a successful career in the electronic industry for over 12 years, having been pivotal in kickstarting developing the Vive business back in 2017 in MEA region. He has worked with different business verticals in creating demand for VR starting from gaming industry in the consumer vertical in key GCC countries to LBE industry in enterprise vertical. Currently, he is leading the B2B business for MEA region, working with enterprise in the region to help them in adapting VR in various business starting from oil and gas to AEC and government entities. As for our last speaker, Mr. Joe, Mr. Joe is a co-founder, secretary, and facilitator of the Vive Xr Chapter, a cross-company and industry organization focused on the prevention of harm by drop objects. Since 2009, he has organized many forums and online webinars on the subject in the region. Besides drops, his career has involved the development and marketing of safety products, inspection, and engineering consulting services. Since 2018, he has set up a business developing virtual reality application with a primary focus on the Drop Asia virtual reality training and certification programs. Originally from Amsterdam, the Netherlands, Mr. Joe has been in Singapore since 2005. With that, I would like to talk about Energy Institute. What are we? The Energy Institute EI is a professional organization for engineers and professionals in energy-related field. The EI was founded in 2003 with the merger of the Energy Institute of Petroleum dating back to 1930 and Institute of Energy dating back to 1925. The Young Professional Network, YPN, is a part of Energy Institute. Acting as the hub for tomorrow energy leaders, our mission is to draw attention together cross-discipline energy professionals from diverse backgrounds to learn about and discuss key energy issues. The Young Professional Network is a collective of 15 international and regional branches. They engage in topical issues across the industry and continuously expanding the professional network to benefit the development and career of its members. Generation 2050. Generation 2050 is a new initiative formed by the Energy Institute, its global young professional network, and our partner that aim to provide a platform for young professionals around the world to have a louder voice in the big debate about climate change, access to energy, and energy security, with the aim of distilling and amplifying a positive vision for change in response to these urgent global challenges, conveying to today's energy leaders the view and opinion of those who will inherit the sector and planet after them, inspiring young people to stay in the sector and others to join it. We want young professionals to be heard. So without further ado, please welcome Mr. Nurazam.
Hi, good morning all. My name is Nurazam Malim from Twistcode. I am as per advertised by Energy. Same way, just like what being advertised, I am what I am. And then I would like to thank Energy Institute for giving us the opportunity to present how supercomputer can assist in AR/VR for industry energies. So let us begin then. So on the next slide. Now, the trend in supercomputers around the world is public knowledge that all supercomputers in the world right now are focusing for renewable energies, and then of course at the same time how to reduce the carbon footprint in order to make this kind of research fruitful and profit-driven entity. For example, Saudi Aramco and ENI from Italy also invested heavily in supercomputers. As you can see, there's a top 10 in the world. There are at least two supercomputers in the world into renewable energy. So in the next slide is the where is Malaysia ranked at? Currently in June 2020, Malaysia ranked number 98 in the world, faster a little bit than Thor supercomputer, US Air Force supercomputer. And then of course we self-assembled this supercomputer. And then if you can see at the rank number 98, we are the only company in the world who self-assembled and then use our own infra to power up our own services. So we tend to do this kind of implementation cross-vertical in healthcare and of course in energy as well. So in the next slide. So this is me, just to say that we are not downloading any stock images or Getty images, just to show the servers. So these are the servers that resides in Malaysia, in our server room, in our poor man's server room per se. So ADAM stands for Accelerated Devices Always Massive. This is the only company, the only supercomputer in the world which can be overclocked. And then we extend this speed in terms of acceleration to produce a lot of data, and this data can be fed into the AI framework, for example, to train, to have a more accuracy, high accuracy as well. So in the next slide. Now, from year 2000, there's a lot of supercomputer here and there with a different architecture for different kind of purposes. Now, for example, for data visualization, it was being done by different architecture. And then for data analytic, it was being done with a different architecture. So it will be very costly. But gladfully enough, GPU, graphic processing unit, the one that plays computer games, assists this kind of acceleration. And nowadays, in year 2020, there's a lot of supercomputers based on GPU that can not only to dedicate its computing power, but consolidate all the processes at the back end to give the same computing power to AI, visualization, data acquisition, and of course, it's automation and scalable outputs. So one infrastructure, one architecture can be scaled down and being used by multiple verticals. So in the next slides. Now, how this AI supercomputer, to be precise, can power up VR. Recently, there's a lot of trend about Cyberpunk. If you see, there's a launch of the latest game by CD Red Project. It's a 8-year, oh no, I think it's for 12 years, development of heavily computed, heavily graphic game called Cyberpunk. Not only it consists of a lot of characters that AI powered, but also it has a lot of visual effects that demands a lot of computation. Now, if we put those into in any industry that similar to energy, for example, in this case, we want to show that just looking at this slide, one of the ways to do this is for the seismic operation for oil and gas. As much as we can use the HoloLens to manipulate the graphic, it also manipulates the data itself. And this data can be fed back into the supercomputer at the back end, real time. And then the data scientists or geoscientists in this case can view, analyze, and give the real-time interaction between the geoscientists and the data output visually, directly from supercomputer. Now it serves two purposes, especially the supercomputer that uses GPU. So one is to data crunching, and the other one is a data visualization output through HoloLens, for example. This, we did this in 2017, November, during one of the exhibition in Malaysia. So next slide. So this is one of the way that, of course, object detection, image classification, which one is a car traffic light. So this can be done when using, for example, mixed reality or AR. In this sense, it's a HoloLens, for example, can visualize the output being influenced at the back end to the end user. So not only end user can interact, but it can be assisted by this AI through the medium such as AR or VR. So this next slide. Now, this is one of the way, like previously said about Cyberpunk, is the way how we play the games, is the way how it dictates to overlay or to overcome on the sense of the gameplay itself towards you. So the end would be endless. The output is endless. So likewise, if we manipulate the way, in this case from AR, VR, learn the end user behavior, what is the most sought after features that the end user often used to. So not only can it learn the way the end user interact, but it can fasten up which processes that each user uniquely being requested by unique different kind of users, for example. So in this case, this one is like a turbine where you can view, not only to view, but you can enhance those requirements or specific features requested by the user when they are using the AR or VR. Next slide. Now, this is one of the benefits of using graphic GPU-based servers, where you can enhance or blow up those devices or equipments, not only to learn how it was being done, that is by training, but also give a chance to the engineers to simulate in real time. For example, the computational fluid dynamics, CFD, for example, which not only requires an interaction using AR or VR, but it also requires a supercomputer at the back end to give the visual output based on scientific computational engineering, for example. So this is one kind of how supercomputer can assist and to accelerate the back-end processes. So multiple collaboration around the world can be made possible. In the next slide. Now, this is one of the work from home, WFH, also forces multiple companies around the world to do things remotely. For example, digital twin, predictive maintenance, preventive maintenance, for example, and also production purposes. So in this era, a lot of companies emphasize on doing work from home, but also to able to control their site operation as well, not only to cut costs, but to leverage on the different kind of uses, for example, for visualization purposes, for inventory purposes, which one you have to service, and which one you can monitor, which employee is the one that who actually do the work to supervise and so on. So this is one of benefit that can enhance the AR/VR experience. Next slide. Now, this is the recent one from China. They announced the creation of a fusion reactor. This is one of the most complex design invention in our times. And then, of course, we believe also it's not documented elsewhere in detail. We believe this being done simultaneously using AR or VR, not only to able to produce this kind of design so delicately using the AR multiple collaboration. As we know, China is very big. And then at the same time also uses the supercomputer at the back end to assist those engineers, which is the best approach to implement and to execute and to design this one safely as possible. Next slide. Now, for future generation, what they should study, which one they should study, and so on. So basically, we emphasize on doing the pure engineering, physics, be it physics or bioinformatics or chemical engineering, so that in return or after that, the spillover will be how to program those knowledge so that you can benefit both worlds at the same time. Number one is, of course, the knowledge itself. Number two is the skill itself. So one of the options around is using the Unreal, Python, C++, PyTorch, TensorFlow, or Kubernetes. This is a somehow must-know knowledge that each engineer should learn. And then at the same time, the sought after in energy sector, you would never know which, in 5 years down the road, which path that you should take and then to brush up and to skill up. And because this is one of the things that I think most companies sought after. I think the last slide, I think that's all. Thank you. I leave it to the moderator. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mr. Nurazam. As Mr. Nurazam mentioned, supercomputers have certain distinguishing features. Unlike conventional computers, they usually have more than one CPU, which contains circuits for interpreting program instructions and executing arithmetic and logic operation in proper sequence. On that note, what supercomputer computing power offer has become the backbone of countless AI, VR, AR, and IoT services. Let's move to our second speaker, who will talk about the future of work. Please welcome Mr. Nicholas.
Thank you, moderator. Thank you, Nurazam. Actually, that was a good start. Good evening, everyone, people joining from Malaysia, and good afternoon to people from the UAE. Basically, first of all, I would like to thank Energy team for organizing this event and giving us the opportunity to speak to these young professionals out here and explain to them the solutions what we have currently for the enterprises. So to begin with, I would like to speak about the future of work. Now, due to current unprecedented times, we are all aware that organizations have currently been pushed to adapt new technology to use a hybrid working culture, which is remote working, working from home. And hence we in HTC have come up with some unique solutions to help the enterprises out here. And what we call is enabling what's next. That's basically what our punchline is. So I would like to take you through this. Can we go to the next slide, please? We all are aware that disruption in technology has been happening for the past few decades. And if you see disruption in PC happened in the year 87, web in 97, mobile smartphones basically in 2007, and then we have VR in 2017. And in 2020, we are talking of something called XR. So technological innovation has been evolving through every decade, and we see new technologies coming in. And we in HTC always ahead in competition in terms of coming up with new technological innovation to support the enterprises or the businesses and the consumers in the region. Next one, please. Let me give you a brief understanding of what exactly is VR, AR, and the new buzzword in town, which is called XR. So VR, as mentioned by my fellow speaker, Nurazam, that supercomputers help to create this 3D artificial virtual environment. And this is something which where VR kind of complements it in terms of using this environment and adding some interaction using the headsets and the goggles what you see in the market. So basically VR helps you to interact in a virtual environment. Obviously, this is something which you'll find in games. So let's say, for instance, you have to interact with a gun, or maybe in a real estate content where you have to open some doors, windows. So these kind of interaction can be done with the help of VR. When it comes to AR, AR is basically, I think the best example to give is the application called Pokemon Go, which had been really famous. So AR is basically an enhanced version of the real physical world and adding to it some special visual elements just to make it more exciting. That's what AR is all about. When it comes to XR, XR is basically a mix of AR and VR. So in layman's language, we are talking of mixing a virtual environment with a real environment. That's what XR is all about. And this is something which is work in progress. A lot of companies are working on this technology, but this basically is the synopsis of what AR, VR, and XR is all about. Can we go to the next slide, please? We in HTC, I am currently managing the Vive Enterprise business for the Middle East and Africa as a region. And we in HTC believe in providing our customers an end-to-end solution. We are talking of hardware plus software plus services. This is a mix of an end-to-end solution which we are providing in the region. Moving on. This basically shows you the complete family of the hardware what we have. The first two products what you see, Vive Pro and Vive Cosmos, these are called tethered headset. They require computers as a complementary product to run the devices. However, the third product, what you see, the Focus family, is basically a standalone headset. It works on a Wi-Fi. It has its own processor. So the standalone headset is mainly used for training purpose. However, the tethered headsets are mainly used for, I would say, precision tracking exercises. So mainly related to your AEC industry per se, which is meant to do with your architecture, construction, real estate, all these kind of industries. They use those kind of precision tracking headsets for doing different, let's say, training modules and content. So that's the synopsis of the hardware, what we're talking of. And we have some accessories, which is mainly the wireless adapter. Again, very unique to HTC because we're the only organization who has this kind of solution for our customers globally. Next one, please. In our region, so what we have realized is that virtual reality can be integrated in different business vertical. However, we are focusing currently on these 4 segments. First being the virtual collaboration platform. With the current situation, this has become a massive increase in demand where people are looking for similar solution. Second is design and visualization, so mainly related to your architecture, that industry. The third is training and education. Again, as I mentioned, because of the current unprecedented times, training has been something which is a challenge, and relearning has becoming more popular than an online training or a classroom training. And the fourth is the location-based entertainment. This is mainly the VR arcades, where you see a lot of VR games coming up with AAA titles. Next slide, please. In regards to some unique solution, and this is something which I would like to kind of talk and show you a video also about. We have something called Vive Xr Suite. So XR Suite is basically a virtual collaboration platform. It's a combination of 5 different applications. One is called Vive Sync, Vive Session, Vive Campus, Social, and Museum. Now these platform or these softwares will help you to organize a small group meeting to a large scale event and exhibition. And this is something which can be done virtually. The good part about this is that it works across platforms. So you can join from a VR headset, you can join from a PC, you can join from a smartphone. So there is no barrier in terms of attending the event. However, the most immersive experience would be to use a VR headset. I'd like to show you a short video explaining you the concept. So basically, this is the concept of the virtual collaboration platform where you can bring in a 3D object in the environment. It's a single sign-on to all the applications what we have. You can host meetings. You can create a custom environment with your branding to showcase your exact training center or a meeting room in your office or offices, wherever you want to have the training. And again, as I mentioned, the best part of it is it's cross-platform. So people who don't have access to VR can still join from PC and smartphone. The next slide, please. When it comes to training and simulation, as I mentioned, that because of the current unprecedented times, training and simulation, this has been a good demand in the market, and VR integration is being one of the I would say most prominent thing which we are seeing in terms of organizations trying to do a digital transformation within the training space. Now we have been working with a global organization and one of the biggest names in the region, which is Saudi Aramco, in terms of integrating training and simulation and helping them to adapt VR. Similarly, we are working with multiple organizations to help them and assist them to increase the V-learning capabilities of their organization. The next slide will show you some reports, which is basically of PwC, explaining as to what are the benefits of V-learning. Can you move to the next slide, please? So if you see in the slide, this is a report by PwC. It's called Seeing is Believing. It gives you an analysis of why V-learning is more popular than e-learning and classroom training. So when it's V-learning, since you're in the exact and immersive environment, people are more confident. So you see 275% of the total people who have been part of this session or the demo has been more confident than e-learning or a classroom training. They complete the event or the training process 1.5 times faster than others, and they they basically learn it 4 times faster than others. So V-learning also helps you to scale up increasingly, or let's say at a very optimum level, by reducing the cost. So after a certain amount of users, you will find that in an organization, the V-learning is more cost effective than online and classroom training. The next slide, please. So when it comes to VR integration in location-based entertainment, I'm sure you must have seen a lot of arcades having VR element to it, where they're organizing esports, they're organizing AAA games, and we support arcades who wants to come up with these kind of unique experiences, right from hardware plus software plus services. So it's an end-to-end solution. We have our own portal called Viveport Arcade, through which the games can be played. It's a cloud-based portal, and as I mentioned, that we host a lot of esports tournament with a couple of AAA titles what we have. The next slide, please. Now this gives you an overview of how VR has been adapted or integrated in different businesses across the industries, and these are the global partners what we have whom we have been working with. So they have adapted either in the form of training or virtual collaboration or in different space. So that's basically a synopsis of the global partnership what we have done. And I hope to answer any of your queries if you have. I guess that's it from my side. Thanks a lot. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Nicholas. As Mr. Nicholas mentioned, the first VR headset came out in 1960. Virtual reality is expected to reach $34 billion by 2023. According to the market, and a combined total $94 billion, including augmented reality by 2023. And on that note, about 75% of the world's most valuable brand has created some form of virtual reality or augmented reality experience. As for our third speaker, we'll give a talk about learning and collaboration in virtual reality. Please welcome Mr. Joe.
Thank you very much. Is my audio coming through all right? Excellent. Okay. Good afternoon, all. Organizing committee participants, Mr. Ankam Pai from the Energy Institute. Thanks for having me. So it's my pleasure to be the third speaker following these insightful presentations from Nurazam and Nicholas. They lay the foundation enabling what we are working on. So I'm excited to share our journey with virtual reality. Next slide, please. All right, so in many parts of the energy industry, and my personal experience being more specific to drilling sector, dropped objects account to a large proportion of high potential incidents. So these are incidents that have the potential of causing serious injury or worse. So one major operator reported last year that in their wells operations, 2/3 of all hypos were dropped objects. So a combination of steel structures, corrosion caused by seawater, and then perhaps to a lesser extent on land, some vibration from heavy machinery, and a lot of people working at height on different level in a small area. Then there's frequent lifting activities and a large crew to operate these machines creates the potential for dropped objects and harm thereof. So renewable energy operations are different, but report similar challenges with frequent work at height on wind turbine installation, for example, or working on roofs for the installation of solar panels. So energy majors have developed a very strong commitment to both process and personal safety. Whether this is to protect the bottom line and reputation or a genuine interest in human life is not always clear, but actions are more important than intentions. And I believe in our industry, we can take pride in our willingness to take significant actions to keep our people safe. That commitment, though, does not always filter down to the work side and staff. So when all the tools and processes are in place, it's often the human beings that fail. They often fail to recognize a hazard, its potential impact, or accept a risk that is higher than desirable. So to compare this to an example we can all relate to is speeding in a car. You typically know you're doing it, you know it carries an increased risk, but some people are willing to take that risk to get to wherever they want to go faster anyway. But more related to drops. Not taking the effort to inspect and stabilize a container before lifting because it takes more time and we're in a rush. Not securing a tool because it's a little inconvenient or I'll just hold on to it. Whether it's not recognizing the risk or choosing not to work safe, it's an issue that can be partially addressed through training. So next slide, please. All right, so established in the late 90s in the UK, DROPS is now a global work group with over 200 member companies. So DROPS is an industry-wide initiative focused on preventing dropped objects with the ultimate goal of delivering a second nature dropped object prevention strategy across our industry. DROPS is essentially a global work group represented by 200 operators, contractors, service companies, and industry bodies, including the Energy Institute, all sharing the commitment and enthusiasm for the common goal of dropped object prevention. So the Asia chapter is a work group consisting of a small selection of these members, including Petronas, Shell, BP, Enquest, Transocean, Seadrill, Borr Drilling, and Baker Hughes. Yes, it's all focused on drilling. So while smaller in size here, our region encompasses more than half the world's population and a vast geographic area. So next slide, please. So we primarily focus on raising awareness of the challenges and the vast array of tools and solutions we have developed over the years, all available for free download at the link above, and includes things like the drops calculator, which is used to classify the potential of a dropped object, reliably securing, which is the go-to guide for securing anything at height. Survey and inspection guidance are used by most drops inspection companies. Backloading is a great reference for crews and logistic partners avoiding drops during transport. Red zones is all about staying out and reducing exposure to areas with increased risk. Tools at height, best practice for working with tools aloft. There's lots of posters to help you develop a drops campaign, and tying it all together is the drops recommended practice, which is really a great start if you want to implement or improve your drops management system in your organization. So drops provide a train-the-trainer program, enabling companies to develop their own in-house training, and several companies have developed commercial courses available in the region. Prior to COVID-19, this was the only available classroom-based format and delivered in the region about once a year, so not really accessible. We were looking for a method to deliver a consistent high-quality training focused on both skills and attitudes to a large audience at low cost. Now, e-learning seemed an obvious solution to develop a technical knowledge, but failed to really change people's attitudes towards the subject. And it's something that Nicholas, also mentioned, whereby virtual reality is able to really connect people more emotionally. And we just felt that was just not very strong with e-learning. So we did not want to have a training that would become a tick in the box exercise. We wanted to make a significant impact towards eliminating dropped objects. So we wanted a way to build and maintain a community which is geographically spread. So we used to hold quarterly face-to-face forums in the region, attended by over 100 people each time, always in fancy hotels. But with the decline of the oil price, as well as the heightened awareness of environmental impact of traveling, this was no longer sustainable. And then, of course, with COVID, even impossible. Where Zoom is a great substitute for conference in transferring knowledge, it's not a great tool for building one-on-one connections. I'm speaking to all of you here. You're listening, you can ask me questions, but it's not a good way of you connecting with other participants in the room. So my co-presenters, Nicholas and Nurazam, demonstrated some of the technical capabilities of VR now and the promise of what is to come. And we also saw this as an opportunity to meet our objectives. So we started our journey in late 2018 to develop a virtual reality-based training and collaboration platform. We can go to the next slide, please. So for training, we are developing immersive scenarios. So in the scenario in this picture, the user is asked to inspect containers using the backloading document reference on the pages before. So with a virtual reality device, like Nicholas demonstrated, users will need to, for example, you see these forklift pockets, they'll actually need to bend down and actually look inside to inspect. And then they'll find loose stones, which is actually a very common thing you need to you find when doing drops inspections. So next slide, please. All right, so in this particular scenario, users will learn all about working with tools at height, what barriers to put in place to prevent the impact of dropping tools. So next slide, please. So more on the collaborative front. So we have an exhibition where users can explore a growing range of practical solutions and prevent dropped objects. And this goes back to our face-to-face forums where we used to actually have exhibitions where companies could display their products. So now we put this kind of in a virtual environment. So next slide, please. So similar to what Nicholas explained, being able to go into a multiplayer environment using an avatar, voice, and chat. You can roam around the room and visit an exhibition and interact with each other. And so we eventually aim to organize drops forums in these systems where you can listen to presentations, panel discussions, interact with the speakers or other participants. And so we really aim to recreate as closely as possible the experience of face-to-face conference. So I'll give a brief demonstration after this. But first, I'll cover subject of your career potentially in VR. So if we can go to the next slide. Yeah, so this is first of all, don't do it now. Later on, I invite you to download and install our beta application, create an account, and then you can explore the app for yourself. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to meet you inside that application. So next slide, please. All right, so a career in VR. So let's say you're interested in doing more than just being a participant. perhaps you would like to champion the VR adoption in your organization. Of course, my colleagues and I would be very happy to assist you in that process, but maybe you even want to get your hands dirty and create some of your own content. So many of you would have an engineering background on the call, and that's actually a great foundation, a great place to start. You're probably familiar with creating 3D models in AutoCAD. So these 3D models are a key ingredient for VR. We use 3ds Max, but it's quite similar. You could transition there quite easily. And so then you need to, so besides 3ds Max, there's lots of other options. So there's a free option, for example, called Blender, which is also good, perhaps a little bit more difficult to learn. Now, that's the 3D models. Of course, on the other hand, you have the hardware, which Nicholas demonstrated, and like more for augmented reality devices, Apple is up and coming with that. It's mostly programmed with software, with gaming software. Unity and Unreal are the biggest platforms there. You could use these and try these free of charge until you start making serious money with it. So it's, yeah, again, if you're into that, there's many ways of learning about this. So with that, I'd like to close the presentation and then give you a short demonstration of the conferencing application we have developed. So Arpai, if you would stop sharing, then I can share my screen. Okay, I think we're still seeing your screen. Right. So I'll share my screen. Could you please confirm that this is coming through?
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So, you know, you need to log in with get the audio going. I'm just quickly stopping share because I realize I need to share the computer sounds. Otherwise you won't hear anything. There you go. So I could create an avatar. It's fairly simple, but you know, let's say I want to have different hair. Few options available here. Different shirts. You can change the colors and things like that, just to personalize it a little bit. So we enter an environment. This is a conference room. This is typically how we would lay it out if we were to be in a conference room. And then in another room, we would have an exhibition. You could wander around. So you can see here, we have various options. We can see here's the Jobs Asia booth, and we have a few people inside here.
What's an exhibition area?
Hey, Gary, Saravana.
Hey, how are you, Joachim?
Good. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing okay. I'm having a bit of a challenge moving my avatar because I don't have a mouse plugged in. I've just got the you know, the scroll pad on the laptop. So, but I've got into position.
Okay, great. Well, thanks for being here. So as you can see,
you're welcome.
The idea is we can basically meet with other people inside the application, and you can walk up to someone, strike up a conversation. So, you know, potentially, you know, the avatar obviously doesn't look quite as good as video. It's not as expressive, but this concept works very well when we try to address kind of visual things, and that's one of the things we see very often in with drops. Is, you know, we might talk about an incident and then actually we don't understand what it's about because it's, you know, someone is explaining it, but it's not exactly very visual. So here, you know, we go into going to an environment which is like a 3D rig, and we've got a bunch of containers set up here, and you know, people can wander around, do the inspection of these various containers, and then of course log in remotely. We can have multiple people from all across the world collaborating on this together. Now, I'm showing this on a computer, but obviously it's designed for a VR environment, and with a headset Nicholas showed, you actually feel you're inside this environment. So yeah, again, I would highly encourage you to try it out for yourself. So install the application, and I'll be happy to give you a demonstration. That's it for me. Thanks very much. Kampai, would you like to take over again?
Thank you, Mr. Joe. I will try to share my screen again so that everyone can see the slides. Thank you for sharing the demonstration as well. I hope you all can see our presentation slides.
Yeah.
All right. So thank you, Mr. Joe. As Mr. Joe described, the Xr has amazing technology software in regarding to energy sector and training as the technology leverage virtual reality, which is called Drops VR. The project intend to produce a training and certification tools where trainings are placed within a simulated 3D environment that reenacted drop object safety incidents. Some of the companies that supported this software are Shell, Siaptec, the Reach Group, among few others. With that, I would like to open the floor for the Q&A session. All the audience, you may ask, if you have any question, you may direct to the speakers that you would like to ask. The chat box is already open. You may ask the question, and I will direct it to the speakers.
I see an interesting question about the quantum computer. Is that a good one for Nurazam?
Okay, should I answer that one or how, sir?
I think you're most capable on that, yeah.
Well, yeah.
A few questions actually that people are asking in the chat as well. So if you feel free to take over it if you feel like you want to answer this question.
Yes, for the set one question, right? Other than seismic 3D design, what else can supercomputers be used for in the energy sector? Computational fluid dynamics, the way how the chemical reactions between in batteries, for example, and also we have to anticipate the automotive industry moving towards hybrid or electric cars. For example, in UK or in Germany, they will start fully electric vehicles by 2030. Now, those are the things that those automotive industries or companies should start to look for so-called renewable energies and how to design those specs, the outer layer of the car, how to optimize it. That's one way to conserve energy. So not only can do the seismic part, but also to simulate and emulate whatever being done in computer into the real world. So both supercomputer can enhance that, and of course, in order to participate or implement those, AR or VR is very much needed. So I think other than seismic, those are the areas that we should look for within 10 to 20 years.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Nurazam, for answering this question. There are a few questions that are asked from the audience. So this is a question to Mr. Nicholas. How do I find the right company to produce VR content?
Yeah, Thank you. Thank you for the question. So this is something which I guess I had not spoken about, but good that this has been brought up. So we, apart from providing hardware and software, we also work with different partners. We call them ISVs. They are the independent software vendors across the world, and we work with them globally. Some are there in our accelerator program, and some we just partner. So how it works is that today, if there is a customer request or a customer need, based on the requirement, we obviously bring in the partner for the discussion, and we connect the partner to the end user. That's how we work. So we, as I mentioned, so we work globally, predominantly from Europe, all the ISVs plus our region, Middle East and Africa, all the ISVs. So we are in touch. Anyone who wants to know on specific, I would say, content provider, we are happy to support them on the same.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Nicholas, for your wonderful answer. This is a question for Mr. Joe. What if I do not have a headset for VR or AR? Can I still enjoy the whole experience?
So there are some technologies available that you can use, slot in a phone, in like a cardboard, but to be honest, it's not a very good experience. And the hardware that you need for VR is actually come down significantly in price. You can get something already from $300 onwards, which is, you know, maybe for an individual who likes to experience it once, it's maybe a bit money, but for companies, yeah, it's a very low entry barrier. We do have the Windows applications, and we'll have iOS applications and Android mobile applications, but it's really different being inside a VR versus seeing it on a flat screen.
All right, thank you so much, Mr. Joe. This question is for you, Mr. Nurazam. Other than Sesame 3D designs, what else can supercomputer be used for in the energy sector?
I think I already answered that, the first one, the first question. Right? Other than seismic, just previously mentioned about renewable energy, automotive industry, how to simulate chemical reactions, chemical bonding, molecular design. Those are the things that we think that it's one way of utilizing supercomputing power towards renewable energy. And then, of course, it is like we mentioned before regarding China, introduced the first nuclear fusion. One of the things that we anticipate and looking forward for, not only to see the actual implementation of those engineering design, but also the research behind it. And then those are the things that we think that the energy industry should look towards in supercomputing. Yes.
Thank you so much. Following up with another question to Mr. Nurazam as well. What impact do you foresee from quantum computing over the next 10 to 20 years? I'm sorry, we cannot hear your voice.
That is a very interesting question, actually, because just within today, the US asked this SolarWinds Orion networks monitoring products were compromised and used in cybersecurity attacks, which mean those SolarWinds in renewable energy was being attacked using cyber attacks towards them. So previously, I made a lot of mistakes. We think that one of the things that we have to do in supercomputing is just to simulate. Now, we think that the more crucial part is about cybersecurity, not only to design or to simulate simulation, but also to defend ourselves, which is cybersecurity. In quantum computing, one of the things that driven them towards this research is to produce so-called pure, secure, encrypted communication. And then we think that that is the way moving forward within 10 to 20 years. Just for the record, Twistcode will announce something in January regarding quantum computing. Is by nature that, yes, we do supercomputers, and then since we involve heavily in terms of implement those, towards cross vertical, we see the limitation. GPU is fast, but not fast enough. But first thing first, how to secure our research, how to secure our networks. So the first thing would be, the first thing that we'll see within 10 to 20 years is the quantum computing towards security first. Then only after that, the priority given to simulation, engineering simulation, energy, and so on. So we see that this the quantum computing research will be fast forward towards security, and then from that you already guessed that Twistcode will have something related to cybersecurity using research in quantum computing. Just to spill a few beans a bit, yeah. So I think that's the trend that we're gonna see for quantum computing for the next 10 to 15 years.
Thank you, Mr. Nurazam. This question is for Mr. Nicholas. Are there lasting physical effects to using virtual and augmented reality?
See, honestly, from the analysis or from the surveys and reports, what we see currently, I have not heard much, but again, to a certain extent, using or choosing the right headset also matters a lot, because obviously, as Joe had mentioned, that if you use third-party, let's say some cheap products, obviously dizziness and other things come into the picture. But when it comes to our hardware, since we are more consumer oriented, when we started off the business, people have been playing games 2 hours, 3 hours based on the playtime. And we have not heard of any effect as such. But this is as it is now. And honestly, for me, the right way to move ahead is basically choose the right product. There are a few brands who are well known in the market, and I think they are the right ones to go to.
Thank you to Mr. Nicholas. This is the last question, and this is for Mr. Joe. Our company wants to use VR mostly for event and training. Do we need to have more than one VR gear?
So it depends, but I think you'd probably, if you want to do it as a company, I would invest in a couple so you can test it yourself. I mean, if it's about interaction, I would practice that whole interaction with other people before you go out and kind of market this publicly. But yeah. You can participate in events with one single device, and that will be a good place to start with. Sorry, I'm not sure if that answers the questions, I think.
Thank you, Mr. Joe, for your answer. This is for Mr. Nurazam. Do you necessarily need a supercomputer to run molecular dynamic simulation, maybe of an oil flow in a pipe that is over 4,000 liters per second?
For this kind of, in my opinion, Twistcode is not an oil and gas company, but we do take a bit of research here and there, and from our minuscule experience, for this type of simulation, you don't need a supercomputer, a large supercomputer. I think about 3 to 4 servers of GPUs is more than good enough to simulate this. It depends on what is the output that you expect of an oil flow. I mean, if it's just a typical oil flow, I think you don't need any supercomputer to do that. But the science behind it, the calculation, the output behind it, whether the pipe itself, you want to have some sort of corrosion inside it. There's a leakage here and there, and the heat perhaps, and then where you want to do some sort of predictive maintenance of this particular pipeline. Now that is another question. So if you want to simulate purely on the oil flow, you don't need any supercomputer to do that. But to simulate 4,000 liters of oil per second in somewhere basin, oil basin, sea basin, ocean, and then you have to do some sort of corrosion if that's happened, predictive maintenance for the next 5 years to simulate to do that, then you need a supercomputer. I hope that answered the question.
Thank you, Mr. Nurazam. This is for Mr. Nicholas. Do you find collaboration company like Shell more interested in these interactive VR tools for internal company application or more for open architecture that is collaborating with third-party stakeholders?
Yeah, so it's kind of a mix of both, because considering the current situation, what has happened is that companies have been pushed to adapt technology even for third-party collaborations where people can't travel. So what we have seen, and I'll give example of the biggest oil and gas out here, like Aramco. So we are talking of they implementing something related to geoscience. So VR and geoscience, that is something which we are going to basically working on with different partners. Collaboration platform is more for internal purpose, hosting internal meetings, and they have mainly the other part is which is related to health and safety training, which I think Joe is also complementing with his technology. So these are the various areas, but what we see is that moving ahead, they are integrating in different other verticals as VR as a cross platform training modules, and that is something which is going to happen in near future. So for me, it's not one area, it's a multiple areas currently organizations are working on for using VR.
Thank you, Mr. Nicholas. This is the question for Mr. Joe. How quickly is the opportunity for integration of auto translation being integrated into these platforms with view to making them truly international?
Okay, so we're currently designing the software in English, but for example, all the conversations that are taking place between the avatars, the kind of the characters in the scenarios, is all actually generated using AI text to speech, and that can be easily translated to different languages, and we can simply add a different voice channel behind it. In terms of the collaboration tools, yeah, I suppose it's technically possible to simultaneously translate a voice to different languages, but I think so all these technologies exist individually, but someone still has to put it all together inside virtual reality. So, for example, I haven't seen simultaneous translation as a tool inside Zoom either, right? So that, but it's technically possible if someone wanted to invest in that. Yeah.
Thank you so much for your answer, Mr. Joe. This is the question to Mr. Nurazam. Again, can we use supercomputer with neural network for better prediction of data?
The short answer is yes. The long answer is depends. Now, prediction depends on who teach them in the first place. If I were the one who teach Adam, supercomputer, about seismic, and then I'm not good in seismic, I got D in seismic in school, then my prediction scores higher based on my interpretation. So the one who gives a better prediction with the highest accuracy is the one who can teach the model precisely and more often. So it's just like a child. A supercomputer is just like a child. If you teach them wrongly, they give you different kinds of accuracy. Whether or not they can give you a higher good prediction. So the short answer is yes. The long answer is depends.
Thank you so much for your answer. This is a question to Mr. Nicholas. What advice would you give for young professionals who are starting out their career and would like to be more involved in VR technologies?
Yeah, so in regards to this, obviously you need to have some basic knowledge of the technology per se. So yeah, as Joe was also mentioning that likes of Unity, Unreal, to a certain extent, some experience on that would obviously help you in terms of expanding your knowledge. The other part is the technological innovations which are going on, and currently the new stuff which is working on products like XR as a technology. So all these, there are different modules also in websites like Coursera, Udemy, where you can take this crash course for you to understand the basics. I think that's the way to go in terms of understanding the basics, and then obviously progress based on how much you are aware of. I think that's the right way to go.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nicholas. This is our last question for our event. This is the question to Mr. Joe. Taking the question above, what advice would you like to give professional with 20-year plus engineering experience?
Okay, so I'm not sure what angle you'd be coming from if you're interested in developing a virtual reality yourself. It is very similar to what Nicholas says. I mean, there's software to be learned. You have a great amount of the foundations already. Engineering is a very good subject to start for this. The software of learning VR, yeah, I wouldn't say you could learn this within a few days. You're probably going to have to spend quite a few weeks or months to get the basics in. But there was a nice, I think, article the other day about a 78-year grandmother who programmed a virtual reality game. So it's age is just a number. Yeah, probably for youngsters it's a little bit easier to get started, but it doesn't mean that someone who is further down their career cannot start with this. Definitely you can. And the tools are getting also easier and easier. And I would say that, we are still in the early stages, but, in 10 years time, creating virtual reality is probably as easy as creating a PowerPoint slide now. Hope that answers the question.
Thank you, Mr. Joe. We have reached the end of our session for today. Record of the webinar will be made available following the webinar, and you may check it in our YouTube channel. Thank you to our speaker, Mr. Nurazam, Mr. Nicholas, and Mr. Joe for this fantastic session and sharing. Thank you to our amazing participant for joining us as well. Special thanks to our supporting partner, Repsol Sinopus, YPN, Neptune Energy, and Austin. Thank you so much and have a lovely day.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.